Welcome back, everybody, to Live Readings. I am your host, Alec, and tonight we have a very special show for you. We will begin with this beauty, The Other Side, by Justin Jay, one of our fellow authors. After that, we have some special productions for you. We have some special content for you from the creators of One True Promotion, and a little snippet from One True Promotion's newest member, Mr. Nicholas Georgel. So we will begin with Justin Jay's The Other Side. Please share. Please follow Alec Pangea Author on Instagram. Please like Alec Pangea-Author on Facebook. Please share this episode everywhere that you can so that people know there is a group called One True Promotion that will read their work for free every Tuesday night at 7. All they got to do is reach out to us. This continues part 2, Bishop of The Other Side, page 47. For a while, I referred to him as the devil. It was what my parents wanted me to call him. It was because of all the negativity he would conjure. However, he didn't want to be called that. He wanted an identity, a reason to live. Allure's eyes quickly met with Leon's. Keep listening. She clears her throat. This made me assume that it couldn't have been an imaginary friend, since normally people would create the dialogue that they would share with these imaginary friends. This voice would provide me with intelligent responses, real conversations like the ones you and I are having right now, trivial questions, bets on certain things that happen throughout the day, and even prompts on what actions to take. Leon takes a slow, shaky breath as Allure turns the page. However, the more I conversed with this entity, the more he spoke about Allie. He began to act very obsessive, and she pauses. Allure shifts her focus from the files to Leon once more. According to everyone here, my home and school, I attacked her. I put her in danger. My word doesn't matter no matter how many times I deny it. I still get penalized. So what's the point in fighting? Might as well give up. Dr. Allure Igor slams the manila folder shut. See? It had to have happened, Leon. Close friends don't randomly call assault for the fun of it. To become a knight and graduate from the Earthshine facility is to accept the unacceptable. I've lost count of how many times we've went over this. The office is silent. Her cold words graze his skin, causing goosebumps to rise on his arms. Aside from her exhale of satisfaction, the only other audible sound is the screaming patient in the other room. He is crying for his wife, who had been deceased for 9 years. Allure smiles. Well, it doesn't sound like you want to become a knight, so Leon grips the chair leg beneath him. All right. I sexually assaulted her. Oh, see, that wasn't so hard, was it? Allure coos as she scribbles onto her clipboard. And how exactly did you cope with this incident and its punishment? Allure asks. I began to use the mirror, as you all instructed, for therapeutic release. I conversed with the voice that echoed through it, as well as I did with one in my head. But you know, that brings me to what I have been meaning to ask for a long time. Allure massages her temples. What is it, Mr. Grantley? Why should I listen to a voice that I know nothing of? Leon, the voice is just a figment of your imagination, silly boy. The whole point in those conversations is so that you can gain a better perspective of yourself. It was an old method once prescribed by a famous philosopher. Many people have reaped a plenty from this form of release. Leon squints with a puzzled look. Dr. Allure turns her head to the side of the desk. She sighs. Ugh, you'll do anything for appeasement, won't you? She closes her eyes, shakes her head, and softly rests the clipboard on the table. Well then, I proudly welcome you to knighthood, Leon. Leon's eyes widen. Wait, what? Dr. Igor ascends upward, away from her chair, to retrieve a certificate for the second shelf in her cabinet. She opens the window behind her to let in the cool fall air. That's right. You get to graduate. But that didn't answer my question. I still don't understand who or what this voice is. Why am I supposed to listen to it, especially since it's part of my imagination? What if I told you that this voice in the mirror sounds exactly like the one in my mind? Dr. Igor takes a deep sigh. Knighthood is all about finding out what the voice actually is. Now that you have become a knight, you will find out what it all means, how it started, and where it comes from. You will travel through the deepest depths of your memory and heart for the true answer. Leon thinks, every single one of you gives me a different answer. First, I was told to ignore it. Now I should listen? Which is it? Sighing from relief, she reluctantly hands him the certificate. Congratulations, Leon Grantley. And if I'm not mistaken, tomorrow is your 17th birthday as well, no? Leon nods. Stop by to receive your other gift. Dr. Jiro will return from his vacation tomorrow. A gift? Strange. I thought that'd be all. The Earthshine Facility. This is to certify that Leon Grantley has successfully achieved knighthood, a program exploring the frontier of the mind and technical aspects of self-improvement, including acceptance of past mistakes to ensure a healthy development for himself and society. Stefano Jiro, founder and head of operations, Alor Igor, co-founder and overseer. December 10th, 2019, Thursday, Colorado Aurora, Lake Harmony, shortcut in the woods, 7 p.m. Leon angrily tosses a rock into the freezing lake. The rock skids across the icy surface. I can't believe Allure did that. It's no wonder people hate having her as a substitute therapist. Where the hell is Dr. Jiro when you need him? If going there wasn't mandatory, then nobody would have to see her. She just reaches inside and just throws your feelings around like they don't matter. I don't get it. Why am I supposed to talk with this voice? What is it that makes things worth discussing? Why, if he just tortures me all day and night? Dr. Jiro, the Earthshine Facility, and my parents taught me to believe that he, the devil in my head, is evil, and that I should hate him for bringing the worst out of me. And hell, maybe I should. He's the only one who knows enough to destroy me. December 10th, 2009, Thursday, Colorado Aurora, Keystone Circle, Leon's home, his bedroom, 7:46 p.m. China Jr. has been with Leon since he was in the 5th grade. She is a black and white feline with a black goatee and copper eyes. The cat was born one warm August morning. Leon awoke to a putrid smell to the left of him, deep within a cat house he had bought for Junior's mother, China. The smell had drawn him near. He checked to see what had happened. To his discovery, he realized that there was more to be found than just his own cat. Mortified yet thrilled, the boy had run off to see his father and mother while exclaiming the great news. After receiving blankets to protect the newborn kitten, China Jr., the kitten was placed in a laundry basket with her mother, who looked exactly like her. The only differences in the two were the placement of the goatees. China's went perfectly straight down to her neck, Junior's a bit to her left. Leon claimed that there was a second cat, a pitch black one, which he planned on naming Raven. However, to his dismay, had mysteriously disappeared. China Jr. and Leon had rarely spent any time apart. While in the house together, he would pet her softly as his abundance of excitement for the day ahead of him enveloped his mind. If he laid flat on the bed, she would make herself a bed atop his stomach. When his friends came over, she'd treat them like family. She was very intelligent. She knew her own name and certain gestures that Leon taught her. If he pointed to an object, she would walk towards it. He was most proud of her ability to understand the meaning of apologies. Several times, after accidentally stepping on her tail, she'd cower and run away. He would soften his voice and would lower his height to meet her level to help regain trust. After China Jr.'s only sibling and mother had departed, Leon had promised to be the very next best thing to her. Leon pets China Jr. She walks away with her tail standing tall, gracefully shifting from side to side. Her ears are pointing towards her window. Leon glances at the glass pane. China Jr. jumps to the ground to await his next move. Something suddenly strikes the glass. "Oh, come on, Jason. Do you have any idea how late it is?" He groans and walks over to the open window. Leon spots Jason's maroon hoodie. "Plus, it's freezing out there." Leon lazily places on laceless shoes and his blue jacket to counter the cool air. Leon exits the front door and meets with Jason, who is standing patiently on the sidewalk. Ready for the big day? Jason asks. Well, to be honest, I'm anxious. Whoa! Not what I was expecting to hear, Jason says. Jason and Leon reach the end of Keystone Circle. Leon stares down at the ground while walking. Hey, since you're here, I might as well ask. Shoot, Jason says, with his hands buried in his khaki pockets. Wouldn't you remember hurting someone that you cared about? Jason sighs. Leon continues. I know it doesn't involve you, but this is my life we're talking about. In order for me to graduate, I have to accept what happened between us. But I honestly don't think that it was me. But isn't that what DID is? If you don't mind me saying, aren't patients with that disorder those who experience amnesic states? Because, well, it'd make perfect sense as to why you don't remember. Leon stops walking, then faces him. Jason, I don't have a vendetta against any of you. I really liked Allie as a friend, and so it just stands to reason why I wouldn't ever touch her like that. Jason turns his face away. Look, Leon, I'll be straight with you. Allie showed me the pictures. The police sorted through more than 10 of them. The details are what brought you to a behavioral psychologist. If they didn't think you were fit for amnesia, you wouldn't be there. But you are. So we all kind of have to take Allie's side. I mean, wouldn't you want some justice? Why'd I bother bringing this up? Jason smiles. Why don't you try telling me the story again? I'm sure no one is watching us. A murder of crows flies around the area. Many roost on top of the electrical posts, a few on the pine tree's branches. Leon's heart rate increases as he looks around to confirm Jason's belief. Well, where were you on that day? Leon turns to the side. I don't remember. I say that I was at therapy, but they, as in the cops in Allie, say that I was at my house. Jason crosses his arms. Was your family home? No. Jason paces in small semicircles around Leon to keep his focus. Do you remember what the weather was like? What were you wearing? Leon looks up towards the stars for relief. If I knew, I would have told him. That day is just one big blur to me. Jason crosses his arms. It was 2 years ago, on December 11th. And to be honest, I remember Allie saying she was going to talk things over with you. Regarding what, I'll never know. But Leon, I can't tell you any more than what you can tell yourself. You might not remember, but your vessel, somewhere inside, carries the answer. One day you'll find it. And when you do, you'll feel better. Well. Looks like your friend doesn't believe you after all. What next then, Leon? Leon wipes the cold sweat off his forehead. You think I did it, don't you? Photographs of a scarred leg and a bruised arm flash through Jason's mind. He recalls the marks on Allie's skin wrought by Leon's vice grip. Jason ceases his momentum to face Leon. Like I said, I'd love to say you didn't do it, but I don't want to lie to anyone. I think you're just having trouble accepting it. Leon thinks, you and everyone else say the same thing. Jason walks over and pats his back. Well, at least you're graduating, right? I thought out of all people you would trust me. It's one thing when your family doesn't understand, but this. And that is Justin Jay's The Other Side. Beautifully bound book, absolutely gorgeous. I received this free copy for having him on Drop-A-Line. One of my favorite things about having my fellow community members on Drop-A-Line for a free interview is that sometimes they're gracious enough to give you back a prize for it. So thank you again, Justin. Thank you all for watching the show. We are just getting started. For those of you who don't know me, I am Alec Pangia. I am the author of Barker's Rules, which just hit Amazon on June 16th. You can pick up your $3.99 ebook today, or you can pick up your $12.99 paperback. They are brand new copies of Barker's Rules, brand new cover art done by Nikki Ray. They are absolutely gorgeous. They are very ominous. They are very foreboding. They really draw you into the meridian, which is where the series will ultimately bring you and hopefully leave you asking a lot of questions. But before we get to Barker's rules, we are going to do a little taste of the amazing Sanguinary Song by Andrew Bast, co-founder of One True Promotion and basically our COO. Here we go. This excerpt is from Chapter 7, Control, the Sanguinary Song. There we go. Okay. Sloppy, Alaric thought to himself as he fixed Christina's posture, gently guiding her to his desired position. They were sitting out in the garden, behind the McNally's house. Liam and Natalie graciously put him up, allowing Alaric to camp out on the sofa bed in the living room until his duties were complete. Alaric was trying to get her to sit straight with her hands in an O shape, so that way he could show her how to properly meditate. The young medium, as the coven classified her, would have to be taught with great care. This late discovery of her powers could make things more difficult, but Alaric didn't mind the challenge. Christina was only 4 years younger than he was, and she immediately distrusted him. Alaric expected this after the way their meeting went. His age might not have lent Christina enough credibility in her eyes, but it was up to him to change that. The coven says I'm a medium, Christina mused. They think I will be consumed by dark magic. Real mediums often are, Alaric responded. Communing and potentially controlling spirits is the rarest power a mage can acquire. It's a phenomenon the magical community can never explain. From what we know, mediums are born with the abilities, but none of the previous mediums have had children. So we aren't even sure if it could be genetic. Then how did the other mediums receive their power? Christina asked. All mages are gifted with their own abilities, Alaric said. There is energy all around us, from the earth and all living things. Nature grants mages their powers. From there, a mage can choose which path to go down, light or dark. Mediums, you could say, are a hybrid between the two, a condition where your power is of light and dark. As such, you are more prone to be tempted by the darkness, for it is inherent within you. Sometimes being in contact with the forest and entities from beyond can cause corruption. Due to this, previous mediums became a threat to the supernatural community, and their power became too much for the factions to maintain. So that's why the coven is so afraid of me, Christina said, looking at her hands. They're worried I may become corrupted? That is the gist of it, Alaric smiled at her. But that is why you have me here. The other mediums did not have a druid to guide them as you do now. We will work through it together. What is it that I can do as a medium? Well, what have you observed so far? Alaric asked, throwing his arms behind his head. I can phase out of this realm and appear in the forest. I can feel auras, and I can hear and see people that are dead. Mediums are supposed to be masters of the forest, Alaric said. Some can even draw their power from it. You can harness phase energy, effectively breaching between realms. There is much more to your power that I would rather explain to you as we progress with our training, if that is all right. It will be an uphill battle for you, but over time your powers will grow, and more abilities will become available to you. With me teaching you control, these powers will not overwhelm you. You will be able to have a better chance to control your growing powers, even if you came to the discipline late. Great, Christina chuckled. More questions and not enough answers. Take off your socks, Alaric demanded, pointing at her feet. What do my socks have to do with this? Mutineer. While you are under my training, I wish you to treat me like any other student of mine would. How do socks disrupt my training? Mutineer. Okay, Christina said under her breath. Then she repeated, How do socks disrupt my training? Mutineer. It's the first step in controlling your powers, he responded quickly, though it was all the information he would offer her. Mutineer. Am I supposed to feel anything? Mutineer. Alaric smirked at her defiance. Or perhaps it was eagerness. In a way, Alaric thought such spunk was cute. Christina tried to open her eyes in protest, but Alaric held her hand to her face, shushing her. He kept his hand there until Christina closed her eyes again, but not before she shook her head. You won't feel it if you keep fighting it, Christina. Alaric pursed her lips. but kept her eyes shut with her brows furrowed slightly. Maybe he was attracted to her pluckiness since it reminded him of how he was when he began his own training. Was this what you meant, Muir, when you told me that one day I would meet a student who would give me as much trouble as I once gave you? He, more than anyone, understood how difficult it was to trust others. Alaric hated putting faith in others when he was younger, and hated being told to wait or practice. Alaric would easily get bored, completing tasks and mastering the runes with ease. The Order took notice of his apparent genius and offered him a role as an instructor. However, this proved to be the most difficult mission he had ever accepted, getting others to obey and learn from him. The experience humbled him even to this day. Alaric laughed lightly to himself, shaking the memory from his mind. What? Christina said, barely opening one eye. Nothing, he said. Listen, I know this can be boring. It was for me when I first started, but finding balance in yourself is essential to taming your powers. Control of your thoughts and the flow of your mind means to have dominance over your body. Control your body and you can control your powers. A free mind allows you to recharge your powers quickly. Control is everything to a witch. I don't think this is working, Christina said. Close that eye and maybe it will. She huffed and closed her eyes again, holding her posture. Good, Alaric thought. Perhaps now he would get somewhere with her. As Christina sat concentrating, Alaric couldn't help but study her. She was beautiful. Her crimson hair was tied in a messy ponytail, freeing sparkling strands and swayed loosely around her face in the wind. She wore black yoga pants and a light green sleeveless shirt. Her skin was pale and her red lips matched her hair. For someone who had her powers cut off from her, Alaric was surprised that she seemed to have no obvious scars from her service to the coven. How do you feel now? He softly spoke, feeling a calm about him. At peace, Christina said. Muir. Good. She was making progress. We are finally ready. Open your eyes. Christina followed his instruction, and bright light flared within her eyes, making her flinch until her vision cleared up. He studied her for a few moments before he rose to his feet and extended his hand. Alaric caught Christina staring at his tattoos. That was when he realized that he was dressed differently than when they first met. Alaric often wore jeans and a black shirt, along with a black leather jacket, but now he wore a red muscle shirt and basketball shorts, which allowed Christina to see the runes painted across his body. It did not surprise Alaric, since the runes of the Druidic Order would baffle anyone outside of their customs. The Druids went into hiding long ago, and they operated from the shadows, providing information from their studies and performing missions with the witches as needed. Not many witches would see her kind in everyday practice. Keeping themselves hidden from the humans and the supernatural community was a large part of their ability to complete tasks without drawing suspicion. They were careful, never leaving a trace. Thus, the warlocks and stronger supernatural races would often blame witches for their deeds, and the druids could continue to work from the shadows. As he caught Christina's gaze, she quickly turned away, embarrassed. Sorry, she said. I'm not trying to be rude. No, it's okay, he assured her. These runes are what makes the druids able to harness magic. Since we are not born with inherent magic like mages, our bodies are not meant to control magic alone. The runes act like a conduit, allowing us to perform magic safely and in a controlled manner. Well, do all druids get tattoos? Christina asked. Only high-level druids who are on active duty, Alaric explained. Some just use weapons or staffs carved with them. When a druid is tattooed, there's always a witch present to help with the enchantment. That's why our people are so close. We help one another. He smiled at her, hoping to win more of her trust. Christina looked at him with awe. She seemed to be finally listening to him. Not wanting to waste the moment, he continued. Christina, every life force in the world has energy, whether it is magical or natural. In order for us to function as life forms, we need to have access to those energy links to live, just as we need food and air to keep us alive. So are you saying if someone is cut off from those energy sources, they can die? Yes, though not right away. The human body uses what we call natural energy, connected through points all over your body. It helps us move and perform everyday functions. Magical creatures, no matter the species, have an additional energy source called energia. The term is Greek for energy, and it has been defined through the years as a separate type of energy that allows creatures to do the things you see today. Speed, strength, magic. Energy adds to natural energy, which is how you differ from the everyday human, like myself. So, if I have both types of energy inside of me, how was it that everyone believed me to be human all of my life? Well, that's just it, Alaric said, throwing his hands up. Energy sealing magic was developed by warlocks for the purpose of hunting down witches. A seasoned warlock could seal a witch's power or cut it off entirely. Some can even absorb a witch's power. This is why warlocks are so dangerous. They abuse natural and energy and magic, only using them to take or grow more powerful. Warlocks are the only force that witches cannot detect. So, by placing a seal on me, I go from magical to human, just like that? Just like that. The problem with sealing spells is that they aren't meant for long periods of time. Whomever placed this seal on you either died or abandoned you due to your proximity to the coven. As you grew older, your power expanded, which is normal with age. The seal forced your power back, but just like pouring water into a full cup, some power seeped out, allowing your powers to come out in times of duress or anger. Once Frederick lifted the seal, it was like opening Pandora's box, she clarified. You could look at it that way. You see, all that energy is there. If you had been exposed to it early on, you could have learned to live with it and control it. But since it had been locked away from you for so long, the power is coming out of you at full strength. It's almost as if gravity were to suddenly become 10 times heavier. Most people would have been shocked, unable to move. The fact that you fought through it is, well, it's impressive to me. But how do I control it? Christina asked plainly. You're doing it right now, Alaric said. Most warlocks fall under the impression that their power controls them, not the other way around. With my help, you don't have to. Whenever you feel yourself slipping, remember this moment, this feeling. Slow your breathing and think of those closest to you, what grounds you. I will, Christina promised, though I have the feeling we are only starting. That would be correct, Alaric said with a smile. Now that your power is under control and your stress level is down, we can discuss the witch's code of conduct. I know most of them, Christina bit her lip. Rule number 1, a witch must never wear black because it is the color of warlocks and represents the temptation of the darkness in one's soul. Good. Next. Rule number 2, a witch must honor the powers that they have been blessed with from the earth. It is never to be used for personal gain, but for the protection of the planet and all of its creatures. Correct. Next. Rule number 3, Christina rocked back and forth on her heels. Rule number 3 is the rule where witches are to practice magic in the shadows. Regular people can't be aware of our presence. For the last time they drove us nearly to extinction. Do you know the other rules? A studying witch must listen to their master, Christina responded, raising her eyebrows. Alaric tried to look away, preventing his student from seeing him lose his composure, but a smile pressed his lips. Rule number 4 is that a witch is not allowed to take the life of an innocent creature, since it disrupts the natural balance of energy, specifically non-magical humans, such as myself. Even as a means to defend yourself, a witch is to use killing as a measure of last resort. Lastly, rule number 5, all witches must register for a coven and protect their territory allotted to them. Only by working together can we protect the world. Do druids have a code? We have something similar, but that's kept a secret. He gave her a playful wink. Christina pouted and rolled her eyes. Of course. Also, wasn't there one last rule in the witch's code? Christina asked, testing the druid. I can't remember. The 6th rule is irrelevant now, Alaric said, waving her off. Maintaining relations with a warlock as well as exchanging magic with them are prohibited, and the penalty is exile. Both can be voided so long as the chancellor of a coven considers you their ally. I see, Christina said. Don't look so miserable. Alaric's voice snapped her back to reality. And close your eyes again. I will teach you all you need to know. I won't abandon or fail you. And that is an excerpt from the Sanguinary Song. Please do check out the Sanguinary Song on Amazon.com. You can pick it up for $13.99, or you can pick up your ebook for $3.99. It is an absolutely marvelous book. It is the debut novel of Andrew Bast, who is the body and spirit of One True Promotion over here. Someone who has grown his following to some 2,000 followers and has grown One True Promotions to 1,000 in his spare time. Andrew is my own personal literary agent. He is just a fabulous, fabulous innovator. He's a fabulously imaginative author who comes up with stories, full of such fascinating creatures as witches, warlocks, and druids, and he brings them all together in a way that really nobody has ever done before. So if you're interested in Andrew's book, grab your copy today. The Sanguinary Song awaits you. All right. And next we're going to read some of Barker's Rules. Barker's Rules is my debut novel. It is the book that started it all. It was first published through Seven Horns Publishing in 2017. It was my body and soul for about 2 whole years after I graduated college in 2014. In 2016, I had a workable draft and I met Seven Horns Publishing. And in 2017, I hit the market. Now in 2020, Barker's Rules has been re-released under the flag of One True Promotion. It is an independent book on Amazon.com. It is a story of survival, of perseverance, of ugly situations, bringing you towards complex conclusions. And by the end of the trilogy, you will see the full vision behind that when you see where Melanie Greer's journey ultimately lands her. And also when you see all that the character of Justin Barker, a truly deranged psychopath, really has to teach. But for now, we are going to read a little snippet from Barker's Rules, which depicts Melanie and Barker at possibly their lowest point. Chapter 11, The Unlocked Door. When they arrived, it was 3:30 in the morning, and the rain had finally softened. There was still distant thunder and likely more rain coming later. Barker had yawned very loud, ordered her to bed, and then shut himself in his own room. Melanie had lingered for a moment, thinking about going to the refrigerator for water, but she decided it was better to obey. On her way up the stairs, she remembered something Barker had said in the car. Something that was making her heart race. If you try to run twice in one night, I might get mad. The room was stuffy, always stuffy. The gymnasium had been a large square with a hole at the top, so plenty of air could pass through. The room was tiny like a tomb, dark as a coffin. She'd sat on an uncomfortable cold bleacher, surrounded by people who really didn't mean her any harm. Here she was in a warm, comfortable bed with a monster downstairs. Melanie was back. If she tried to get out, the beast would bite her. However, the rules left some flexibility. She was not allowed to leave the house, but her bedroom door was unlocked. Melanie was allowed to roam the house. Melanie was sitting on the floor now. Rocking back and forth. She was holding her pillow, pressing it against her chest. It felt good to squeeze something soft. She realized sitting there that she was surrounded by gifts, a warm bed, a box of books, a closet full of clothes, but she didn't want any of it. Melanie wanted to be outside. She wanted to get her own books, her own clothes. She wanted to be with whom she chose, namely Martin and Deborah Greer. It had only been a week, but for Melanie, it was like she had crossed some threshold. The days were going by faster. As time went on, her family would forget about her. No, they never would. Never. They would frame pictures of her atop the fireplace. The whole family would remember Melanie. The whole school would remember Melanie. Fargo would remember her. But soon they would stop believing she was alive. And Melanie felt dead. Dead to all of them. 2 more strikes. Was she really going to sleep tonight? In Barker's house? 2 more strikes. The words bounced within her skull. Run, Melanie. The room was square. A box. The gymnasium was an even bigger box, and this damn town was cut off from the rest of the world by a broken bridge. Melanie was trapped within a series of boxes. She never escaped. She just jumped into a different one. What the hell? She muttered. Melanie wanted to pace to let out some anxiety, but she couldn't. Barker could not know that she was awake. Quietly, she stood up and sat down on the bed. She placed the pillow. let her head fall. She rolled over, burying her face. Everything was blanketed black. She probably looked ridiculous all the time she used to do this at home. Stupid. Whatever she was upset about, a bad test grade, something a mean kid said to her, some horrible thing she heard on the news, or just general sadness, just looked stupider with her face buried in the pillow. Was that really all she could do right now? The door is unlocked. It was a different house, different situation, dire situation, but she felt stupider than ever before. Why didn't I just keep running? It was only rain. Why didn't I go back to the city? I didn't have to go to the cops. He would have had to search the crowds. He never would have found me. Fuck, she whispered. Damn it. She nearly pounded the bed, but then she remembered. Don't let him know you're awake. A thought was rolling around in her head like a spinning wheel. As the thread formed a shape, Melanie saw something ugly. Slowly, it became more and more real. All of her emotions were coming together in a swirling storm, melding into one single mission. In her mind, she saw an open drawer beckoning her downstairs, and yet a memory of cold chains warned her to use discretion. I can do it. Such an insane thought. Go down the stairs, creep into the kitchen, to the drawer, then to the bedroom door, turn the knob, then be quick about it. You still have 2 strikes. If there was any blessing still privileged to her, it was that she still had a chance to do wrong and not be killed for it. In that moment, what she felt was motivation enough. I won't let him hurt you, Mom. She stood up, silent. Her father's smashed face appeared again in her mind. Barker deserved to die. I won't let him hurt you anymore, Dad. She would run away. No one would find her, not until she found her way home. And now Melanie was at the door of her own room. She slowly turned the knob, careful to avoid any clicks. Slowly, Melanie pulled the door open and saw a hallway of strange shapes. When she was little, shapes in the dark consisted of faces, wolf snouts, tiger fangs, spider legs, any monster that might eat her. Tonight, the shapes looked like sticks, guns, squares, boxes. There was a curved rectangle along the floor, a square straight ahead, and 2 rectangles next to her. All was cloaked in black, but nothing but silhouettes surrounded her. She knew where to step. She knew from last time which spots to avoid. Melanie knew all the quiet places to step. Then she was at the stairs, to distract herself, to stop herself from panicking. She counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4. She arrived at the landing. Thunder roared outside, and she thought she could hear Barker snoring. 5, 6, 7, 8. As she descended, Melanie saw darkness moving upwards. She was walking into its belly and wondering if she would ever climb back out. But as the thought came to her, her feet, like a feather, hit the ground of the bottom floor. The door was right there, but she had no weapon. There was a thunderclap, but this time it sounded distant, miles and miles away. Melanie practically slid along the ground floor, through the kitchen. If her feet could grow wheels, she'd feel much less anxiety. When she touched the drawer, a chill ran through her. She thought nothing of it, for once, and opened the drawer. There's nowhere to hide. Just do it, and run like hell. She half expected to turn around and see Barker laughing at her in the living room chair, but there was nothing in that darkness except more stationary shapes, a barrel and a small overturned locker. Melanie had the knife in her hand. The knife was heavy, so sharp she thought the tip would tear right through her no matter how gently she wielded it. She kept a firm grip on the hilt. Sharp objects, needles, skewers, scissors had always given her chills. If you tripped, that could be the end. But now Melanie had another problem. The knife was going to be her best friend now. Her hand was clasped around the knob of Barker's room. What was she going to do? Stab him? Cut his throat? Maybe she should just go back upstairs. No, he was asleep, and she could do it. In the next 5 minutes, she could be free. Prickles of rain hit the house and moonlight trickled in through the window. Once she opened the door, she would have to be quick. If he saw her, That was it. Open the door, slowly. Make sure he's asleep. Then stab him. Her hand was still on the knob, just sitting there. Melanie tightened her grip and turned the knob. The lock came undone. Slowly, she pushed the door open. Only a small bit of light made its way into the black cave as she gently eased it open, wider. Barker's room was the darkest in the house. The thick blinds were drawn, and right in front of her was an animal. Some massive shape in the dark, making massive snoring sounds. From the brief splotch of light, she saw him lying face up, bare-chested, facing the ceiling. She had a clear shot to the heart. Her hand was still on the knob, and in a few seconds it would be time to hold her breath and let go. I'll take something from you now. Gentle on her feet and clenching her weapon, Melanie glided forth. Gaining speed, she let gravity take her and plunged the knife down. Her wrist slammed into Barker's grasp. Melanie screamed, but still pressed down. He twisted, and pain shot up her arm, loosening her grip. Barker pried the knife away from her with his other hand, and suddenly she felt it slice her right forearm. A sharp pain gnawed into her flesh, and she let out the loudest scream she could, everything in her body clenching and growing stiff as a rock. Barker rose and threw her backwards, smashing her against the wall, gripping her throat. His eyes fluttered like a baby's, not even fully awake. Excuse me, I'm trying to sleep. In the dark, she could see him gritting his teeth. Let me go! Her arm was in so much pain. Let me go! Let me go! Blood dripped onto the floor. He squeezed her throat so hard she was sure for a moment she was going to suffocate. At this point, she had kicked him several times in the legs, but that did nothing. She could see his face more clearly, the yellow eyes peering out of the dark, just like a wolf. He pressed harder, and she was ready to pass out. Strike 2. Go back to bed. He pressed against her one last time, and she felt ready to vomit. Now. And that was an excerpt from Chapter 11 of Barker's Rules. If you are interested in the book, please pick it up at Amazon for $12.99, or you can get an ebook for $3.99. Give me 1 second, folks, while I grab a charger. You heard from Justin Jay, author of The Other Side. You heard from the co-founders of One True Promotion, Alec and Andrew. Andrew's The Sanguinary Song, Alec's Barker's Rules. And to round out our show tonight, we have a special presentation from our very own Nicholas Georgel, who has just joined the team at One True Promotion. He has written a book called Life is Death, The Death of the Earth. So to round out live readings for this evening, we are going to just take a quick look at that. Thank you for those of you who are here. Thank you for those of you who are commenting. Thank you for those of us who are joining us on Instagram, Facebook, at Alec Pangea Author, Andrew Bast Author, or One True Promotion. Thank you also to all those who are joining us on YouTube. Thank you so much for supporting live readings. Please do share and get the word around. Let authors you know that they can get their work read for free right here on the show. Life is Death, The Death of the Earth by Nicholas Georgel. Prologue, The House Fire. Daichi tossed and turned in his sleep. He reached over the side of his bed as if trying to push something away, knocking his school bag off the nightstand. He rolled over to the center and faced the ceiling, eyelids twitching. Images began to flash through his mind. At first, all he could see was an empty void. Then he saw it, the wisps of fire dancing, glowing like a lone torch in a dark cavern. The silence turned into the crackling of burning wood. Each crackle had a distinct ring to it, whether it was the low sizzling of the floorboards or the snaps of the ceiling trying to break away. What frightened Daichi the most was the smell. His nose could point out each item that was burning inside, from the chemical-ridden odor of burning gouged upholstery to the engulfing aroma of paint melting on the walls. But there was one smell that stood out amongst the others, something Daichi had never smelled before. It was the stench of burning flesh. The sight of the house decaying amidst the flames was an experience that would have been emotionally devastating for anyone, let alone young 8-year-old Daichi, who could only watch and pray as the structure lurched and groaned, giving way beneath the roaring flames. The day after the fire, Daichi returned to the house. In some ways, seeing the charred carcass of what he used to call his home was more unsettling than seeing it on fire. Even while it was burning, he convinced himself everything would be okay. However, when he looked at what was left of the walls that used to hold up his family photos and the empty ashen void on the second floor, which used to be his bedroom, where his mother would read bedtime stories to him every night, he knew that was no longer a possibility. Daichi didn't even take notice to the neighbors surrounding the yard, or the men in blue uniforms searching the property. Most of them had inquisitive looks on their faces, puzzled as to what caused this incident. His anguished frame of mind was suddenly interrupted when, out of the corner of his eye, he saw someone running up to him. It was Mizuki Mori, the young neighbor from down the street. She was about the same age as Daichi. Her dark brown hair fluttered in the wind, and as she made her way past the sea of onlookers. "Daichi!" she shouted, tears flying from her big brown eyes. One would think seeing your best friend at a time like this would be comforting. But for Daichi, it only made him feel guilty. Dreaming this made Daichi sweat profusely. He lurched to the side and brushed off the covers. At the time, he didn't know how to react. But with Mori's face buried in his shirt and her arms wrapped around him, all he could do was accept her hug. The burnt slab of wood that was once Daichi's front door creaked open, and a group of police officers stepped out. They talked quietly amongst themselves, gloomy looks on their faces. Then one of them stopped and looked at the two children. He muttered a few words to his colleagues, then separated himself, walking over to them both. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with a middle-aged face. Unlike the other officers, he wore a suit under a thick brown trench coat, sporting a unique detective's hat over his neatly kempt black hair. His distinct appearance marked that he was their superior, and while he had a solemn demeanor, there was a fatherly tenderness to his presence, as he gazed at the two children with remorse. "Daichi, I had no idea you were here," he said with slight urgency, patting Daichi on the shoulder. "Mizuki, I want you to take Daichi back to our house. I'll return as soon as my men are finished up here." Mori bowed and quickly replied, "Yes, father." She took Daichi by the arm and guided him towards the street. "Come on, Daichi, I'll make you some tea when we get there." As Mori led him away, Daichi stared back at the house. Why should I have to leave, he wondered. Don't I deserve to know what's going on? And then Daichi snapped. He scrunched his face in anger and broke away from Mori, running back toward the house. "Daichi, where are you?" she began. Chief Mori started walking back over to his officers, but after a couple steps, his path was suddenly blocked by Daichi, who glared at him in defiance. "No! This is my house! You can't force me to leave!" Everyone stopped their conversations and glared at the boy, including Mori. The chief stared down at Daichi with a bewildered yet pitiful look in his eyes. During the baffled silence, the front door creaked open again. Only it wasn't police officers who stepped out, it was the paramedics. Through the years, Daichi gradually forgot the faces of the officers and neighbors who surrounded his house that day, but never did he forget the faces of the two paramedics. Even in his dream, their appearances remained clear as day. The first man who stepped out was a squat man with squinted eyes, maybe in his early 40s. The look on his face was grim. The second man was taller, possibly in his late 20s. A single tear trickled down to his horror-stricken face, probably his first day on the job. Between the two men was the stretcher. Once Daichi saw the stretcher, his entire body froze as if the world had stopped. Everything and everyone around him had become irrelevant. All that mattered now was who was under that sheet. Random murmurs were heard from the neighbors. Mori gasped and covered her mouth, while Chief Mori turned around and darted over to the paramedics. "What the hell are you doing?" he said. "I told you to wait. There are children here." But it was too late. Already, Chief Mori could see the horror on Daichi's face as he gaped at the stretcher with wide eyes. Limply, Daichi reached toward the white sheet covering the body. In his sleep, Daichi did the same. Mom, he muttered emptily. Chief Mori twitched his eyebrows and looked away. Get her out of here, he ordered. Moving with haste, the paramedics carted the stretcher across the lawn toward the ambulance parked in the street. However, when they hauled it over the curb, a wheel bounced. And suddenly, a hand was visible. The sight was gruesome. It dangled over the side like a limp fish, charred and searing red, ridden with third-degree burns. Chief Mori hoped Daichi wouldn't notice, but it was unmistakable. The hand belonged to his mother. The image of the scorched hand burned in Daichi's head, rousing him in his sleep. Then his body lurched once more, and it was over. He fell from his bed to the floor and his eyes burst open, his mind coming back to reality. Then he rose to his feet, walking over to the window beside his bed. It was morning, and the sunlight watched brightly over the Tokyo skyline, glistening in the windows of the immense skyscrapers. Already Daichi could see the neighbors headed for work, walking in the direction of the ever-busy Shinjuku railway station. Daichi rubbed his eyes and yawned. He ran his hands through his long green hair and fixed his bangs, which he parted down the middle due to his cowlick. Then he looked at the calendar on the wall and grumbled. It was a Thursday. Daichi hated Thursdays. It was a Thursday when he lost his set of gardening tools. It was when most of his classes scheduled tests. However, the day he was dreaming of was also a Thursday. This was not the first time Daichi recalled that day in his dreams. In fact, he had almost grown used to it. But Daichi did not want to dwell on such grim memories. So he began putting on his school uniform. He straightened his tie, then looked across the room and smiled. On his dresser sat a framed picture of his mother and father standing next to each other, with a young Daichi in the middle. His mother was a fair woman of average height with long green hair just like her son. She had a warm look in her brown eyes, as if there were no other place in the world she'd rather be. It was hard to believe the blackened piece of flesh she saw all those years ago used to her clean, elegant hand, which rested on Daichi's shoulder in the picture. A glare of sunlight reflected upon the glass over the photo, and from where Daichi stood, the only portion the glare blocked out was his father's face. Good morning, Mom and Dad, he said to the photo, smiling. He grabbed his bag and opened the bedroom door. I miss you guys. Chapter 1. The Shadow of Death. Daichi opened the front door and stepped outside. The sky was clear, and the warmth of the morning sunlight washed over his face. At the front of the house was his garden, one of the few things that survived from the fire. There were a wide variety of flowers, ranging from white lilies to cherry blossoms, purple wisteria, and starfish-shaped pink moss. Carrying a watering can, Daichi walked down the front steps and smiled at the colorful vegetation. Then his eyes fell upon a small group of bluebells near the front garden. Kneeling down, he grabbed a few by their stems and lowered his nose, whiffing their sweet scent. Just like the ones Father used to grow. As he watered the garden, he noticed something lying in the dirt next to one of the lilies, something that was not supposed to be there. Seeing such a blemish ignited a fire within Daichi, causing his face to scrunch in irritation. He snatched it up and seethed, his blood boiling with fury at the sight of the hideous intruder that invaded his garden. It was a crumpled up piece of paper. What the hell is this? He roared. He raised his hand, holding the trash, and shouted to the neighborhood. All right, which one of you bastards thought it was funny to litter on my garden? You know, Daichi, said a giggling voice behind him. It's just a piece of paper. Daichi turned around to a familiar sight. Mori was standing on the pathway, waiting for him whilst being amused by his rant. Mori had matured quite a bit since they were kids. She had an attractive body, slenderly built with a full bosom, her knee-length skirt highlighting her thin legs and curved hips. Wearing her sleeves rolled up, Mori's snow-white skin shone brightly in the morning sunlight. Strands of her straight brown hair fluttered in the wind, looking clean and refreshed as ever. Beneath her big brown eyes, Mori covered her hand over the lower part of her face, hiding her cute, giggling smile. I swear, you overreacted to the littlest things, she teased. I don't think you get it, Mori, he said seriously as they walked down the street. That garden was a memento from my father. Oh, I see. Mori immediately regretted what she said. Once the high school was in view, she changed the subject. So anyways, did you study for today's test? Of course I did. You didn't actually study. I mean, How hard could it be? And that concludes our excerpt from Life is Death. That was surprise. Nick, I've never read your work before, but I have to say I greatly enjoyed that. That was something. I'm anxious to read the rest. So thank you all for coming to the show tonight. We are running at just about time. Thank you to all those who tuned in and left comments on Instagram. Thank you to all those who tuned in on Facebook. Thank you to all those who are tuning in on YouTube. Thank you for supporting the show. Please do keep coming out every week. And if you're an artist, an author, or anybody with something to create, please do send us an excerpt of your work to alecpangia@gmail.com. Or if you're just running a business, send us a pitch and we'll read it and promote it for you. Whatever you need. I'm Alec. I represent One True Promotion. This was Live Readings, and we will see you next time. Take care.